Welcome to the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast. I'm the sports editor of the Herald Democrat, Jason Del Rosa, and you're listening to the latest edition of the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast. We have done it. We have reached the final week of football's regular season, week 11, if you're counting by number, and we actually don't have a lot of drama. We have plenty of action. We have plenty of things to talk about from last week, but there's not a whole lot that we don't know going into the final week of the season. There are a couple of instances where some teams need to figure out their playoff seeding, and there's one instance where we're waiting to see if a team, or technically two teams, if that gives it away, are going to be in the playoffs or out. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot of drama coming into the final week. A lot of people took care of business last week, and it's gonna have a relatively stress-free final week for a lot of people. But we're gonna talk about it all, as we always do here on the podcast, which is brought to you by Frontier Golf Carts Texoma. Experience the thrill of savings to celebrate their new Denison location, proudly serving the greater Texoma area, where they're launching with the lowest prices of the year. This marks an exciting new chapter in the 11-year history of Frontier Golf Carts as they expand from their original location in Salina. For their grand opening, come see the awesome collection of new carts with up to $1,500 off, including the 2024 Frontier EV Lightning F4 with all seats facing forward. New lithium battery-powered golf carts with backup cameras and touchscreen entertainment start at $7,495. Visit frontiergolfcarts.com or check out their Facebook page for the latest specials. And if you would like to sponsor the podcast, or you know a business that might want to sponsor the podcast, please reach out to Renee Marler at rmarler@cherryroad.com. Again, we do the podcast until the last team is standing, so we may have 5, 6, 7 more weeks if you want to jump in or start planning for next year. We do a preseason preview, and we take it all the way to, like I said, till the last team is out. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Renee at rmarler@cherryroad.com. So week 11 is here. We'll break it all down as we do for all you fans regularly listening to the podcast. You know how it goes. Start at the top, work our way down to the bottom. We look at last week, what it means for this week and beyond, because we're now going to start talking about playoffs and matchups and all that sort of stuff. So we'll kick it off, as we always do, at the top with the first of several Thursday games, which I'm sure a lot of people already know, especially if you're a fan of those teams. But if you want to catch some action on Thursday and Friday this week, you've got a bunch of options to get that done. And the first game that's on Thursday, 7 o'clock, Sherman traveling down to Frisco Lebanon Trail to end District 5, 5A Division I play. This is at Kuykendall Stadium, the old Memorial Stadium down in Frisco, for those who want to go and hit the road to watch the Bearcats. Sherman comes into this game at 2-7 and 1-6 overall after they lost 42-14 last Thursday against Frisco Wakeland, to have two back-to-back Thursday games to end their season. And Lebanon Trail is now 4-4, 2-4 in district play after they lost last week 63-23 against Frisco Lone Star. And a lot happened in this district on Thursday and Friday last week, mostly Thursday because a lot of the games were played. But everything from a playoff standpoint has been locked in now in this district. We know who the 4 playoff teams. Neither of these teams, Sherman and Lebanon Trail, are in. So this is a game to finish this season positively, get that momentum going into the offseason. This is a game last year that Sherman won 44-20. And you just, somebody's going to go into the offseason with that positive momentum. Lebanon Trail is better than they were last year. They were towards the bottom. Like I said, they've got some wins over the teams at the bottom. They're looking to get that against Sherman and move into a tie for 5th place, which would be a step up for them. For those paying attention to this district and what's been going on, Frisco Reedy is in 1st place, Lone Star is 2nd, Wakeland is 3rd, and McKinney North is 4th. Like I said, they've all clinched playoff spots, and the big game, obviously, this week in this district is Reedy against Lone Star. If Reedy wins, that gives them the outright district title. If Lone Star wins, then you have a tie for the top spot. Wakeland is waiting to see if McKinney North wins their last game after beating Sherman last week to have a chance at the second seed if Lone Star loses, potentially to have the 3 seed if McKinney North loses. So seeding is still up for grabs, and part of that was Wakeland beating Sherman last week. Like I said, 42-14 on Halloween night, coming up to Sherman to play that game at Bearcat Stadium. And again, Sherman hanging around in the first half, only 14-0 early in the second quarter. It was 7-0 after the first quarter. Wakeland gets a late touchdown and goes up 21-0 at halftime. Sherman is able to get on the board in the fourth quarter with a couple of touchdown runs by Colby Ray Short. He finished with 17 carries for 113 yards and those 2 touchdowns. But outside of that, Sherman unable to do a whole lot. Part of that is a quarterback situation. Starter Caleb Orr is still sidelined from getting hurt a couple weeks ago. A.J. Carney took over as the backup, missed the game due to disciplinary reasons, so we had to go to a third quarterback, emergency quarterback, day of the game in Colin Macon. So that kind of changed the game plan. Sherman kept it on the ground for the majority of it. They ran 38 plays, 32 of them were runs. And, when you're limited in that respect, it's kind of hard to keep up with the team. Like that is a playoff team that went into the game knowing if they had won, they were going to clinch. And give credit to the Sherman defense. In the long run, you give up 42 points, and obviously that's not ideal. But again, this was a game that considering the circumstances, to only be 21-0 at halftime, they made some plays, they got some stops, they forced some punts. They stopped some going for it situations to limit the damage early on, but unfortunately. Down 21-0, Wakeland came out, started the third quarter with the ball. They scored right away to kind of start to pull away. And unfortunately, Sherman didn't have a whole lot offensively to be able to sort of match that in this game. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. It's one of those things where, like I've said the last couple of weeks, Sherman has shown in the past, even though they've been out of it, and there's nothing to play for but pride to try to get a win. They've done really well in those situations for the last game, and especially having to go down to play a Frisco team. So we'll see how this one goes and how Lebanon Trail wants to finish up. They have a chance, because of their situation, to finish as well as you can in trying to be near the playoffs and kind of build on that momentum going forward. They've kind of been an up and down program. So that's Sherman's game at Frisco Lebanon Trail, played at Kuykendall Stadium, 7:00 on Thursday. Again, this is a Thursday game for Sherman to finish its season. The other 5A game this week, obviously, the Denison Yellow Jackets. They are in a similar situation. They are playing a game between two teams that are likely out of the playoffs. Denison has been eliminated. They are hosting Melissa. The Cardinals need a monster upset for them to get into the playoffs. So this, again, could be a game between two teams that don't end up getting into the postseason. Denison coming into this game off the 57-7 loss against Lovejoy. Denison is 2-7 and 2-5 in district play. Melissa coming off a loss against Prosper Walnut Grove. They are 5-4 and 4-3 in district play. And again, this is also a Thursday game at Munson Stadium, 7:00 in District 4 5A Division II action. And this is a situation where Melissa has to win to have a chance, but the other half of their equation is that they need Anna to lose to Frisco Liberty. And that's where obviously they run into trouble to get that help, because that's probably not a very likely scenario for them. If that were to happen, then Melissa would be in a three-way tie for third place with Frisco Emerson and Anna all at 5-3. The way it's going to look that it's going to play out is Anna will beat Liberty and move to 6-2. That would clinch a playoff spot for them. And then if Melissa, even if they were to win, they would tie Emerson, and they lost to Emerson, so Emerson would go as the 4th seed out of the district because of the tiebreaker. So Melissa does come in not completely out of it. They do have to win and hope and pray that other result happens. But it's very unlikely. It's extremely unlikely. So you have a lot of players for Melissa that obviously this could be their last game. It's probably going to be their last game for those seniors. So they're going to want to come out and put up a good performance. This is a recent rivalry between the two. Just starting a couple years ago with Melissa moving up to 5A. Last year's game not as close, 40-14. Melissa won. The year before that, Denison fans know Jackets went down to Melissa to play. It was a close game into the third quarter, early into the fourth quarter, before Melissa was able to gain a bigger advantage where the score didn't indicate how close that game was for a while. So you never know what you're going to get. Obviously, it's the last game for Denison and their seniors. They want to send them out with a win. Unfortunately, last week they weren't able to affect the race for the playoffs. Lovejoy was able to clinch its spot with that win against Denison. They jumped out to the 17-0 lead over the Jackets in the first quarter. It was actually 17-7 after Ty Rhodes had a 48-yard touchdown run with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. And you're like, okay, like I said, they're kind of hanging around. And then in the final 6.5 minutes, Lovejoy gets a couple field goals. They get a touchdown, break it open to 30-7. And obviously Denison only had that lone touchdown. Ty Rhodes leading the way with the offense on the ground, 19 carries for 82 yards, and the score. Roman Henderson added 6 carries for 17 yards. Denison without Jalen Butler, who was out for disciplinary reasons, and that affected things obviously when you're one-dimensional against a team like Lovejoy, who is currently the district co-leader with Walnut Grove. They were able to kind of key in on that. Denison passing-wise only had 15 yards, and so that was a couple turnovers. And like I said, they hung around for a little bit, and again, you look at the final score and you say it's 57-0. In the first half, the Denison defense held Lovejoy to 3 field goals, a couple of them short field goals. Once Lovejoy got deep, they weren't able to punch in those scores. So again, you kind of think you're hanging around. Maybe we can carry that into the second half, but they weren't able to. So chance to bounce back, have a good showing for your final home game, and get some positive momentum for a season that obviously did not go into the way Denison thought it would be, thinking that this game might be for playoff seeding or a battle for a playoff spot because of how competitive this district was. And you look at the top 5 teams, again, 2 of the spots are still up for grabs, and you have a team that's 5-2, a team that's 5-3, and a team that's 4-3 in Melissa in this district. And then there's that gap where Denison and Independence are 2-5, on the fringes of that. So again, it's not the way that you would have wanted to, but you have a chance again. It may not matter in the long run as regards to Melissa's playoff chances, because like I said, I don't think Anna's going to lose. But if you really want to ruin their chances and ruin the end of their season, you go out and get a win, and that's what Denison's going to try to do. 7 o'clock on Thursday at Munson Stadium. So both Sherman and Denison playing on Thursday this week. Moving down to 4A, we have the Van Alstyne Panthers. They are going to hit the road in District 5-4A Division 2. This is a 7 o'clock game at Cattle Mills on Friday night. Van Alstyne won 54-7 last week against Bonham, so they are 6-3 overall, 5-0 in district play. And Cattle Mills is coming off its bye. They are sitting at 6-3 and 3-2. And we have talked about it with Van Alstyne this whole way through. They have remained unscathed. They won the big game against Farmersville to remain in first place by themselves. And they are above the fray. They clinched the district title last week. They clinched the top seed for the playoffs. First time since 2018. that Van Alstyne's won a district title, and they don't have to worry about anything. If they were to lose this week, it doesn't hurt them in terms of seeding or winning a district title, all that sort of stuff. And they are playing a team that is desperate to win because the rest of this district is a mess. Nobody else has clinched a playoff spot besides Van Alstyne. Farmersville, Cattle Mills, Sanger, and Crum are all tied for second place at 3-2. Farmersville and Sanger play each other, so the winner is definitely in. The loser may still get in depending on what happens between Van Alstyne and Cattle Mills and Crum and I believe and Bonham is the other game. Now, you would assume that Crum is going to beat Bonham because they should, because Bonham hasn't beaten anybody in this district. But the outcomes of those other two games are going to see who has tiebreakers over who if ends up being a three-way tie. There's a lot still going on. Van Alstyne doesn't have to worry about this. They did what they needed to do against Bonham last week to remain above all the nonsense below them. They jumped out 21-0. They were up 34-0 at halftime. They were able to limit Bonham to barely 150 yards. The lone touchdown late in the third quarter, 17 seconds left. That's the only points that Bonham was able to get on the scoreboard, and they did exactly what they needed to do. Brady Carson, 5 of 9 passing for 140 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also ran 8 times for 46 yards on a touchdown. Michael Upchurch leading the way on the ground, 7 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Casser Fonseca, 2 catches, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tim Moore, 3 catches for 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. Braden Miller scored on the ground. Caden Chandler scored on the ground. And that's how you get 54 points and have an easy game. So as much as you'd like to have an undefeated district championship, as much as you'd like to have the continued momentum going into the playoffs, at the very least, Van Alstyne knows we know we're district champs. We know we're the number 1 seed, and we can just go out and play. Don't have to worry about it. Obviously, you'd love to win, and it's going to be interesting to see with Cattle Mills, how quote unquote desperate they are in terms of play calling, in terms of how they approach certain situations. Because again, if they win, they're in. Because like I said, the Farmersville Sanger loser is going to drop to 3-3. Well, if that winner wins, they go to 4-2. If Cattle Mills wins, they're 4-2, and if Crum wins, they're 4-2. So those 3 would get into the playoffs. Then we would just have to worry about figuring out seeding. So Cattle Mills knows if they win, they're in. And sure, it's a tough task for them taking on the district champion, who hasn't lost yet. But Cattle Mills has had some close games in this district, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this turns into one of those. I know Cattle Mills has had injuries. We've talked about that it's affected potentially their ability to compete for a district title. We thought if Van Alstyne was not the front runner based off what they'd done against some of these teams last year, finishing behind Aubrey before Aubrey left in realignment, that Cattle Mills would be in position to maybe that this game could have been for the district title. The last week, the winner's the district champion, and the loser has to get the second seed. It didn't play out that way. Van Alstyne was able to take care of all its business, and we'll see if they can finish off that perfect district run with the trip to Cattle Mills at 7 o'clock on Friday in 5-4A Division II action. In District 6-3A Division 1, we have one of those key games, and that is going to be the Battle of the Boroughs as Whitesboro travels to Pottsboro in a game that will decide some seeding implications for the playoffs. Whitesboro is 6-3 overall and 4-1 in district play. They clinched their playoff spot last week when they beat Pilot Point in the Battle of the Bearcats 37-21, and Pottsboro had its bye last week. They are sitting at 8-1 and 4-1 in district play. And this game is very simple. This is the winner gets the 2 seed and the loser gets the 3 seed. Palmer obviously has already clinched the district title. I guess technically they've clinched a share of the, oh no, they're done. So they finished with the bye. So Palmer's done. They're 6-0. They get the 1 seed, and Pilot Point could have had a chance to clinch a playoff spot last week. Unfortunately, they are now tied with Life Oak Cliff, and those two will play this week, and that is essentially a playoff game because the winner is in and the loser is out. And so we have 2 of the 3 games mean something, and obviously the third game would mean something in terms of A+ Academy in Madison, because that person is going to get their only district win, and the loser is going to go winless in district play. And if you're Dallas A+ Academy, you are trying to get your first win of the season. But huge game in terms of seeding in this game. Obviously, it's always a big game with the Battle of the Boroughs that is back. It's back on. It disappeared for a little bit. Now they're back, obviously being in the same district, and that's a huge deal. Last year, in non-district, this was a shootout. It was 49-30. Pottsboro was able to pull away a little bit at the end, and I expect it to be I think a little bit of the same this year. Again, Whitesboro coming off the win against Pilot Point. They were able to hold Pilot Point scoreless in the second half. This was a game 28-21 at halftime. Second quarter got kind of crazy. Each team scored twice. Kind of a little back and forth throughout that first half. Scoreless third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, Whitesboro was able to kick a field goal, get some touchdowns, break it open there, and clinch the playoff spot. Which again, that was the whole goal going in. Just don't find a way to get that win, so that way you're able to know for sure that you're in, and you don't have to worry about that anything crazy going on in that last in the last game between you with Pottsboro and then obviously the Pilot Point outcome. Colt Fagan, 9 of 14 passing for 170 yards and a touchdown. Big day on the ground, 11 carries for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns. Braden Bomar, 4 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. Cameron Howard, 10 carries for 88 yards and a score. And Whitesboro did what they needed to do. Again, the big second half there for the defense. They forced, I think it was 3 turnovers in this game, a couple of them in some key spots, and that's what you needed to see. And again, it's been a much better offensive effort from the early struggles that we saw with Whitesboro. They've even in the loss to Palmer, they played Palmer as tough as anybody has, and this is going to be a fun one. I'm gonna be at this game, Battle of the Boroughs, because of the games that are being played on Thursday. So I get to go to watch this one, and I think this has shootout potential. It's so and those are always fun when you have 2 local teams battling back and forth, something on the line. Again, we thought maybe this could be for the district championship, depending on how things went with Palmer. Palmer did very well. They're 8-2. And again, there's no shame in losing to them, but still a lot on the line for seeding. It's a new bracket because of the realignment. So the second seed or the third seed might be more advantageous. We won't know until it happens, but obviously you get a chance to get a better seed in this matchup, and it's going to be interesting to see with with Pottsboro coming off the bye. It's always that rest versus rust factor. This late in the season, it could also be a good thing if there's some guys banged up that that just needed a break. It's really hard to play 9 games in a row or 8 games in a row with some of these late buys that we've seen in the last couple weeks, that guys just need to recharge. Again, if you've got those injuries to kind of heal up, get 10% or 15% better for what's going to be a big game. And of course, you always want that momentum going into the playoffs. Obviously someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and it's a lot better to go into feeling good going into the playoffs than it is coming off a loss. So that's Pottsboro hosting Whitesboro in 6-3A Division I action on Friday night at 7:30. Dropping down to Division II and 3A, I'll mention the game with the team that we didn't have, and then the team that played and doesn't have a game this week. So Howe's coming off its bye. They are hosting Blue Ridge to end their season. Howe is 3-6 and 1-4 in district play. Blue Ridge is 7-2 overall and 4-1 in district play. And in District 7 3A Division 2, we know everything we need to know. Gunner has clinched the top seed. They can finish off their undefeated run this week. Blue Ridge is locked into the second seed at 4-1. Bells, who we'll talk about here in a second, they are 4-2, and they are the third seed. And Leonard is sitting at 3-2. They're locked into the 4 seed, and so we know everything that we need to know in terms of playoffs for this one. So Blue Ridge is trying to, obviously they want to have second place by themselves. The off chance that Gunner loses to Leonard, they would be co-champions, so they're playing for that. And obviously they want to go into the playoffs on a good note, and you have a Howe team, again, that had the late bye, probably got some guys healthy, and they want to go out on a good note as well. Obviously, not the season that they wanted. I think the feeling coming in was that maybe they could compete for that last spot. Obviously, only beating SNS, losing to Callisburg, who they're currently tied with for 5th place, and a couple games, with a couple games back of Leonard in that race. Injuries got them at times this year. I don't know if it would have made a gigantic difference, but I think they would have been competitive in some of the games down the stretch. And so hopefully the bye helped them, and hopefully they can put a good showing at home, at Bulldog Stadium. And this is a Thursday game. This whole district will be talking about Thursday games. At 7:30 on Thursday, Howe's going to host Blue Ridge, coming off its bye. Now the other team in the district I want to talk about before we get to games from last week is Bells, because Bells, I would say, if you want to say unfortunately they have the bye to end the season. It's not as bad as it used to be when you were the district champion and you had a bye at the end, because then you had to go 3 weeks without playing. But Bells drew the schedule that had the bye last, so they are sitting at home this week. But they are sitting at home as a playoff team because they went and beat Leonard last week 34-14 in a game that was at the very least was going to involve playoff seeding. But Bells hadn't clinched a playoff spot. There could have been a crazy deal if they would have lost, but they're able to take care of business in this game, doing it like they always do, running the ball, slot team mafia, 50 carries, 420 yards. Bryson Thompson leading the way, yardage-wise, 180 yards and a touchdown on 14 carries. Jackson Brown, 21 carries, 124 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tucker Kreitz catches a 24-yard touchdown from Easton Branham, and Bells shuts down Leonard for essentially the game, but through 3 quarters they only had a touchdown. It was 7-7 after the first quarter. Bells beefed things up there in the middle 2 quarters with 4 of their 5 touchdowns there, and then Leonard tacked on a touchdown in the 4th quarter when they were already down 34-7. So again, another good showing for Bells. They got as good a seed as they could have hoped for. It's a little bit different for them because they've always been the district runner-up to Gunner. But again, that may not be, in terms of a playoff path, it may not be a terrible thing. We'll have to find out when other people start clinching in other districts. But Bells knew what they had to do. They had to go in and get a win to make it official, and then not have to sit here and worry about potential tiebreakers and all that sort of stuff. Especially with the games going on last week, because there were some people that might have been able to sneak in, but they did the best that they could do after losing to Blue Ridge and Gunner. They got the 3rd seed, and they're going to rest up. And they have had some guys. Tucker Kreitz is a guy that's come back off of injury. The fact that this bye is as late as it is, maybe that will help get ready for the playoff with some of the other guys that have been out. And so that's where Bell sits. They can sit back. They don't have to worry about anything. And honestly, everybody in this district doesn't have to worry about anything, because you're either in or you're out. And if you're in, you already know your playoff seed, which is good for Leonard, I would assume, because you didn't want to be Leonard and coming into this game at Gunner Thursday night at 7:30, having to win to get in. Or if you lose, you're out, or you need to win to get a better seed. This is a game that it's not Nothing's on the line except for if you're Leonard, you're trying to end a long Gunner winning streak in this district. This was not a close game last year. It was 6-3-0 that Gunner won, and obviously you have Leonard coming off the loss last week, so they're 6-3 overall, 3-2 in district, and Gunner won 49-0 against SNS. So they are 7-2 and 5-0. They are looking like the Gunner that everybody expected. Obviously, 6 wins in a row. They're not giving up points. The Blue Ridge game, obviously, the exception there. I think, like we said, Blue Ridge is definitely better. But outside of them, it's been a shutout, 7 points, shutout, 6 points, 7 points since they had those back-to-back losses during this 6-game winning streak. And they look ready to make another deep run. They're going to try to finish things off with this win against Leonard. Last week, like we said, big win over SNS, and a game that they took care of again early. This was a 42-0 game at halftime, and again a variety of people being involved. Dylan Tokars, his only run was a 73-yard touchdown. He also had a 64-yard touchdown pass to Cole Harpole. Preston Tarpley, 3 of 3 passing for 100 yards, and 2 of those passes were for touchdowns. The first one, 49. The first one was 49 yards to Brock Body. The second one was 51 yards to Easton Overman. Tarpley also had a touchdown run. Saxon Harris scored on the ground. Mitchell Gage returned to punt 44 yards, and it was a very balanced attack, like it always seems to be in games like this. A lot of double-digit guys rushing the ball, double-digit guys carrying the ball, and a strong effort on defense as well, holding SNS to 62 yards in the game. And so Gunner goes into the last game. I think obviously the biggest thing with them is injury-wise. Again, they've had to battle that since the start of the season, and they're getting guys healthy back. And I think that obviously the biggest concern is to get guys healthy for what they hope is a lengthy playoff run once again. So Gunner's going to close out their season, their regular season, 7:30 p.m. on Thursday in 7-3A Division II action when they host Leonard. And then the last game in this district to end the regular season is SNS going to Callisburg. Again, we mentioned, so they lost to Gunner last week, so they are 0-9 and 0-5 in district play. And Callisburg lost 56-42 against Blue Ridge. And so Callisburg is 3-6 and 1-4. Again, matchup of 2 teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs. So you've got a pride factor. You've got a Callisburg team that obviously played Blue Ridge as well or better than anybody else that they've beaten in this district. Obviously, Gunner's the only one that's played them better in terms of the teams in this district. So that was kind of an interesting surprise that there was a little bit of a shootout there. And, of course, if you're SNS, you're trying to break this long losing streak. You're trying to avoid a winless season. Last week, obviously, the very tough sledding that we talked about, again, not being able to do a whole lot against a really talented Gunner offense. Hunter Corville, 6 carries for 19 yards. Only threw for 22 yards, was 3 of 11 there. Adam Mutz had 2 catches for 19 yards. And, again, it's can you get some positive momentum? Can you end the losing streak that's dated back 2 seasons? We'll see what happens there. And again, you have a Callisburg team that wants to finish strong, and I think that result against Blue Ridge kind of it's hard to tell because people do senior nights on all different weeks. These days, they don't wait till the last game of the season, which is what it traditionally was. But obviously, it's going to be the last game for the seniors to play on that field. And again, this is also a Thursday game at 7:30. That whole district is playing on Thursday. And you might be saying, why are all these people playing on Thursday, especially the last week of the season? In some cases, it has to do with stadiums for some of the bigger ones. But for the smaller schools, when it comes to trying to get playoff venues, you are having to play on Thursday because the bigger schools are hosting their own games potentially on Friday, and obviously they're not going to want to play on a Thursday if they can avoid it. So that this district is kind of being proactive and saying it gives us an extra day. We're going to play Thursday, and then we're going to turn around and play Thursday in the playoffs. It gives you an opportunity to send your people out, your coaches out to go scout in person for not just for the first week's playoff game, but maybe a potential the second round playoff matchup, because most people don't play on Thursday. It's become a little bit of a trend. Denison's done that the last couple of years. Coach Whitson is a big fan of that, to get that extra time if you are able to make the playoffs. Because usually you're going to the bigger schools play on the Friday, and you get an extra day of rest between the Thursday and the Friday. So that's why we have the 5 games this week with teams that are playing on Thursday instead of playing on a traditional Friday night. I think that's here to stay. I don't necessarily love it because it splits up the games, and it's harder to get to as many games as we can. At the paper and trying to cover as many teams as we can. But obviously it's if it works, it's one of those, it's been a trend the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, with some of the smaller schools to be able to get that game on a Thursday. So that whole district agreed to it. Everybody, I don't know if the whole district, I think it's been, if you're in the game, both teams have to agree, or I don't know if they just voted when they had their district meeting and said, hey, we're going to have the last game on a Thursday, all in favor type of thing. The last couple of years, it has been as long as both teams agree to playing on Thursday, you can instead of playing on Friday, and that's why. And like for example with Denison, that's why that game is on Thursday. Everybody else in the district plays on Friday, so that's a case by case basis. As long as Melissa agreed, and of course they agreed, thinking, yeah, we're going to be in the playoffs, that would be beneficial for us, but everybody else in that district is playing on Friday. So it varies based on what the coaches agree to when the realignment happens and they have their meetings and stuff. But I wonder if District 7-3A Division 2 voted on that at their meeting and said, hey, we're all going to play our last game on a Friday, or if they just left it up to the individual schools and everybody decided to play them on Thursday. So, but that's why we're seeing a lot of Thursday games this week, compared to maybe just 1 or maybe 2, depending on the prior weeks, and everybody else plays on Friday. So that's just a little bit of insight to why you may be going, man, why is my team playing on a Thursday? They should just be playing on a Friday. That's the reason there. Getting down into 2A level, this is where we have the game that's going to decide a playoff spot. And that's the White-Wright Tigers hosting the Trenton Tigers at 7 p.m. on Friday. White-Wright won last week 42-0 against Nakona, so they are 6-3 overall and 2-3 in district play. And Trenton lost last week 34-0 against Tom Bean, and Trenton is 4-5 and 1-4. And so again, this is a pretty simple scenario. If you are White-Wright and you win, you are in. You clinch a playoff spot with a win. If you lose, Tom Bean is going to get the playoff spot, because White-Wright, Tom Bean, and Trenton would all be tied at 2-4, and then based on the point differential, because of that lopsided win Tom Bean had last week against Trenton, they would have the best point differential amongst the 3, and Tom Bean gets the playoff spot. So Tom Bean is on bye this week. They are sitting at home after that win against Trenton, and I'll talk about that. That was a game they knew they had to win. They could not afford to lose this game. Otherwise they would have been out, and then Trenton and White-Wright would have been the winner is in and the loser is out, and that's what Trenton was trying to get to. They wanted to be at least in that situation. Because if they were to lose the way they did, they knew there'd be no way to leapfrog Tom Bean in that points situation. So Tommy was able to get the job done there. Again, a pretty dominating performance, 34-0. Bobby Rogers, 8 of 13 passing for 174 yards, 3 touchdowns. and an interception. Also ran 22 times for 181 yards and 2 scores as well. Hagen Darney, 2 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. Colin Cherry's catch was a 51-yard touchdown. Garrett Kelly's lone catch was a 35-yard touchdown. McGuire Poole chipped in 3 receptions for 36 yards. And again, the defense, really good job, obviously with the shutout. And again, considering the scenario, Tom Bean did all it could. Unfortunately, when you look at their season, again, another a winning record, which is very good at 6-4. And unfortunately, when you look at their 4 losses, they're outside of the Tioga game that they lost 56-12. You look at the other games in the district, they lose to Whitewright by 4 points. They lose to Alvord by 3 points. That was on a last-second field goal. And they played Wolf City to 28-27. The difference there being, a missed extra point. And so 3 of their 4 losses could easily have been wins. Even if they won, they could potentially still have been out. Which is crazy to think about. They would have had to have won, 2 of those games. Obviously, they would have won the Whitewright game. They would have clinched. But it's you look at Tom Bean's finish in district and you go, there's literally 3 or 4 plays that they could easily be sitting at 5-1 or 4-1 or 5-1, I guess, and be done and have clinched a playoff spot. But they did what they needed to do to have a chance, pending the Trenton Whitewright game. Obviously, Whitewright coming off 42-0 win. They're in a prime spot. They know what's at stake. They're at home, so there's that. They're in a really good spot. But again, and I say the bad thing is now you're facing a Trenton team. Yeah, they want to win. But now it doesn't. I mean, like I said, if they win, it doesn't matter. They can't get in no matter what. They've been eliminated. So that could like I said, that changes the game plan. That changes what you're expecting to do going into the game, because before you thought maybe we have a chance. Now you don't have a chance. So that's where Trenton is. But Whitewright again last week jumped up big in the first quarter, getting 4 touchdowns there to go up 28-0. And again, Nakona, we've talked about their struggles in this district. They have rarely scored. I think they have now they have 1 touchdown in their 5 district games. They haven't won a district game, and they have a chance to end their season against a team that I don't think is going to feel very generous in their trip to Tioga. We'll talk about that game next. So, there's a chance that out of their 6 district games, they only score 1 touchdown in the 6 district games. So obviously, you knew coming in if you could shut them down, it wouldn't take a whole lot. But obviously, where it has a good game in the air and the ground. Gage Walker 12 carries for 134 yards and a touchdown. Easton Helgren, 5 carries for 59 yards. He also had 7 catches for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Colt Yancey finished 11 of 18 for 144 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ryan Parker had a touchdown catch, and Alex Reeves with a touchdown catch as well. And Yancey added a touchdown run to help propel that big first quarter. And it's right there for Whitewright. Win and you're in. Win and you again are adding to the best season in a while. And lose and you're out. And it's very simple. I think it can get confusing or conflicting when you're talking about you've got to win by a certain number, or the other in another game you're waiting to see somebody has to win or lose by a certain number. It's as straightforward as it can be for Whitewright. When they take the field in 6-2A action on a Friday night at 7 o'clock, when they host Trenton. Winning you're in, and losing you're out, and we'll see if Whitewright gets in or Tom Bean gets in. Those are the options. Either way, we're going to have somebody, another local team, getting into the playoffs, but we'll see which one it is after the White Trenton game on Friday night. The other game in the district, like I mentioned, so Nakona still has their game, and they're going to be playing at Tioga, and this is the worst team in the district against the best team in the district. Obviously, Nakona 1-8, 0-5 after the loss to White, and the big game we talked about in this district in terms of getting things done at the top, Tioga wins 60-36 against Wolf City, so they are 7-2 overall and 5-0 in district play. That locked up everything, much like Van Alstyne. Tioga took care of the business that they needed to take care of. They clinched the top seed. They clinched at least a share of a district title. They would have to lose to Nakona to share it with the Wolf City Alvord winner. Those two play each other, and that's much like the Pottsboro-Whitesboro scenario. The winner of Wolf City Alvord gets the second seed. The loser gets the third seed. But a very impressive showing. We thought there would be a lot of points. Again, we talked about the contrast in styles to where Tioga loves to throw the ball. Wolf City loves to run the ball. They both did what they love to do, and a game that was 22-6 at halftime turned into a second half shootout. Both teams score 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. Tioga scores 3 times in the fourth quarter. Wolf City scores twice in the fourth quarter, and that's how you get 60-36. And again, it was exactly the kind of game I think we thought that not the defense was optional, but two really good teams with two really good offenses. Austin Norwood, 3 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rocky Urich, 12 of 20 passing, 302 yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. Sam Mott, 93 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3 catches. Johnny Dorpinghouse, 2 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. Ran 3 times, 72 yards and a touchdown. Gage Anderson, 8 carries, 64 yards and a TD. Slade Babbitt had a pick 6 to add to that lopsided score. And to give an update, we talked about how do you stop H.D. Davis for Wolf City. Well, he had 49 carries for 309 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also had a 43-yard touchdown catch. So again, 2 really good teams. I think Wolf City is going to beat Alvord as good as Alvord's been defensively, and so both these teams are going to be 8-2. And Tioga did everything it needed to do to where even if something crazy happened this last week, and I will point out, not that it, obviously Nakona was better last year. Nakona beat Tioga last year, 62-38. And that was a Tioga team that, won a district title. Technically shared it, I guess. And so that was one of those scores last year that were you kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? So I know it's different kids, but that was a surprising score. But again, I think Tioga wants to have the undefeated district season. They've been on a roll in this district. Again, the offense is doing what I think a lot of people thought it would. And again, I think they're going to want to get this game over as soon as possible in terms of a score that they can get some backup guys in and try to make sure some people are either rested or stay healthy for, again, what they think is going to be a good playoff run, making the region semifinals last year. Getting that far, if not further, has always been the goal for a large group of guys who came back off that team from a year ago, and they're primed to, again, go 6-0 in this district and win. They won another district title, and they're doing it with some good performances on both sides of the ball, and I expect that's going to be the case for Tioga when they host Nakona at 7:00 on Friday. All right, we got 2 more teams to go to talk about. The last 2A game we have is Collinsville making the trip to Santo in 8-2A Division 2 action. This is a 7:00 game on Friday, and unfortunately for the Pirates, they suffer their first loss. They lose the showdown with Munster 34-20, so they're 8-1 and 3-1 in district play. Santo is coming off a 49-14 loss against Lindsay. They are 4-5, and they are 1-3 in district play. So obviously for Collinsville, disappointing to be in the situation that it looked like they were obviously in prime position to win a third straight district title. They hadn't lost a district game in that span, going undefeated the last 2 years. This was a game they led 14-13 at halftime, but unfortunately Munster scores twice in the fourth quarter when it was tied at 20 after 3 quarters. They were able to make the plays in the second half. Couple turnovers hurt the Pirates, and so the Hornets get the top seed. They would have to lose to Chico, who has not won, is 1-8, and has not lost a game, for Collinsville to try to get a share of the district title. That's obviously very unlikely. Collinsville is locked into the 2 seed. We talked about how the winner was going to get the 1 seed, the loser was going to get the 2 seed. Era and Lindsay are the other playoff teams, and lo and behold, they play each other. So that's going to be real simple. The winner gets the 3, the loser gets the 4 seed. But Collinsville's locked into where they can get in. Santo obviously is going to finish. They're currently in 5th place right now. And so this is one of those games where you look at what Collinsville did last week and you go, were they going to take it out on Santo? I have a feeling they might. They want to get back on track, going into what they think is going to be a playoff run again. This is a program that's been in the region final the last 2 years, and they want to get back there. And again, they may have surprised some people at this point, just based off of the group that they lost that got to those region finals. And I think they would like to see Munster in a little bit of a rematch, considering how last week went. And I'm sure Munster would say the same thing if they would have lost that game. For Collinsville last week, J.J. Jenkins, 17 of 31 passing for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns and an interception. Chad Davidson had 3 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jackson Spivey, 6 catches for 63 yards. Peyton Davidson, 3 catches for 61 yards. Garrett Trevino, 17 carries for 51 yards. And Shea Shepard scored on the ground for the Pirates. And so we'll see. Obviously, that's a long trip to make out there for Collinsville. But again, I think after last week, they're going to want to bounce back in a big way, and it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case with that trip to Santo at 7 o'clock on Friday night in 8-2A Division II action. And the last team we'll talk about is the Texoma Christian Eagles. They have a TAPS 6-man Division III District 3 contest on the road at Longview Heritage Christian, and this is for the district championship because Texoma Christian had the bye last week, so they are 3-0 and 2-0 in district play. And Longview Heritage Christian won 42-26 against Greenville Christian. That was, as we talked about last week, that was the game that was coming up, or I guess a couple weeks ago, that this was the game that was going to decide potentially who Texoma Christian was going to play for district championship. Longview Heritage is 9-0, and they are obviously 2-0 in district play because it's only a 4-team district. And this is very simple too. Both of these teams are in the playoffs. They both beat the 2 teams below them. So unfortunately for Greenville Christian, they've got to sit and wait and see if they can get a wild card. But these 2 teams know they're in, and the winner gets the top seed and the district title, and the loser gets second place. The fact that TCS is in this spot, huge. I think obviously that was the plan, considering the other teams in this district. And the only question was because they hadn't played a lot of games. You know, we talked about way back at the beginning that Texoma Christian, out of 10 games or 10 potential games, was only going to play 6. And then they had people cancel, or they had to cancel, and that number kept getting whittled down. And so they've only played the 3 games. You know, like I said, Longview Heritage has played a whole season. You know, they're 9-0. Greenville Christian, they are 2-6, so they've played 8 games. They basically played a full season. Even Dallas Fairhill has played 8 games. So you have all these teams that are playing a lot more than you, and maybe it was going to take some time to figure it out. Where you only had the one game before getting into the district games. Now it hasn't mattered because TCS has dominated the 3 games that they've played. And if you want to play a score game, TCS beat Greenville Christian, 2 weeks ago, 73-34, and again Longview Christian beat them 42-26 last week. So does that mean the defenses are about the same? Does that mean TCS has a little bit better of an offense? I don't think so. I mean, obviously Longview Heritage Christian is a favorite. They're 9-0. They put up a ton of points this season. But again, the fact that everything played out the way Texoma Christian hoped. Again, they've only got a 9-man roster. They didn't want to get people hurt. They didn't want to potentially have to forfeit games because they didn't have enough kids. When you talk about eligibility and injuries, that stuff when you're right on the razor's edge of having a full roster, all it takes is 1 week to kind of mess with that. So they know for sure there's a playoff game. There's a chance regardless that it's going to be a home playoff game potentially. And so that's a good spot for Texoma Christian to be in. Making this trip out to Longview with the district championship on the line, playoff spot already secured. That's the way they would have drawn it up before the season to improve off of last year. So Texoma Christian going to Longview Heritage for that game. 7:30 on Friday in TAPS 6-man Division 3, District 3. That's a mouthful to describe all that. So that's where we're at going into Week 11. The White, Red, and Tom Bean people are going to be watching intently to see what happens to decide that playoff spot. Obviously, Whitesboro Pottsboro is a big game, and Texoma Christian playing for a district championship as well. And we've got a lot of other teams trying to end their season on a win, and a lot of teams getting ready for what the playoffs. We're going to have several teams obviously in the playoffs, and we'll run all that down after we see where people fit in and all that stuff next week on the podcast. Which it's looking like it might be. Hopefully there's some cooler weather. We are in November after all. We would like some football weather, and whatever game you go to, whether it's Thursday night or Friday night, enjoy it, especially if it's your team's last one. You only get 10 of them, or you're only guaranteed at least 10 of them. So this may be the last one for you. And if it's not, and you've got games going for next week, or the week after, keep that in mind as well. You only get the games till they're gone. And we're at that time of year where people are playing their last games this week, and then after that, you never know when the last game's going to come. But we'll talk about them all here on the podcast, win or lose, however long our teams go. And I thank you for tuning in. If you want to keep up with all the action, we got volleyball playoffs. We got basketball, boys and girls, starting up this week. We got, obviously, the football. Cross country just got done over the weekend. We had some strong performances there. And if you want to know about all that stuff going on, the HeraldDemocrat.com website, you can find it all there. If you follow us on our social media pages, the Herald Democrat page or the All-Texomaland page, if you just want the high school stuff, that's the place to be. Posting it on the daily. Whenever stuff's happening, you can get it there first for sure. So be sure to check that out. And also you can follow me on my X/Twitter/ whatever we want to call it, at Jason De La Rosa. You'll get some stuff there as well. So, again, appreciate your support. Enjoy the games this weekend, and thanks for tuning in to the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast.